All right, I think we might be ready. Everybody can hear me? Yeah. I see some nods in the house. That's good. I guess to start off, thank you everyone for coming here to Annapolis. I can see a lot of friendly faces out in the crowd, a lot of folks that have been in this industry for a long, long time, and some new folks as well. Do I need to not stand in a certain place? Let me know. Oh, I need to go left, apparently. Okay, let's try it over here. Okay, I need to be right in the center. All right, dead center is going to be our best bet here. So, yeah, thanks everyone again. What we're doing here today is celebrating a book launch, right? And so the book, hopefully you've seen copies out there. I see some copies in the laps here of our team members. What we're looking at here is a fantastic book called Mastering Lithium-Ion Battery Safety. And you can kind of see pictures up here. And what we're doing today is really getting into a quick introduction of our team. Robbie's going to talk through a little bit about what the book is, and I think we're going to have an exciting panel discussion as well with really 7 key industry members that are all very, very, very involved with lithium-ion battery safety. So let's introduce our team here. We're going to start off with the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of Americase International, Robbie Kinsella. Next up, oh geez, yeah. Next up, we have Dwayne Fun, Principal Consultant here with HazMat Safety Consulting. Next up, we have Bob Richard, Vice President, HazMat Safety Consulting. We're going to move toward Ryan Paquette, President, HazMat Safety Consulting. Next up, we have Chris Egloff, Chief Revenue Officer, Americase International. Next up, we have John Redmond, COO, Chief Operating Officer, Americase International. And the final member of our team, Dalen Zartman, the CEO of Energy Security Agency. And before kicking it over to Robbie for a quick overview of the book and the keynote address, I should probably stop wandering around the room, I've noticed. I can't help it. I am Mike Pagel, Senior Consultant here with HazMat Safety Consulting. I probably should introduce myself. I see a lot of friendly faces in the crowd, so I feel like I know everybody, but of course, I don't know everybody. So thank you so much for coming, and I'm going to kick it over to Robbie here to talk a little bit about our book.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, sir. I don't know where you're going to go, but maybe sit right here on the front. Okay. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. What a great crowd. We're also live streaming, so there's going to be some times where we say, hey, get the microphone a little closer so we can make sure all of our audience hears it, okay? A little housekeeping out of the way. So it's not just a book. We're here because this is what it represents is the people behind it and why and how we got here. It's not just a book, right? So to my left, co-author Chris Egloff. Hold your applause. To my right, Ryan Paquette. They've already, thank you. Yeah. We've co-authored this book, but I want to start with taking you back to the beginning. Americase did not start in a boardroom. Americase did not start as a designed company. It started as a company who evolved from the beginning in a garage that I grew up in, or at the house that I grew up in when I was 5 years old, right? It's a gun case company. That's how we started. We started making sporting good cases for the industry to travel, just like golf clubs. If you want to go play golf anywhere in the world, you have to travel on an airline. You want to make sure your golf clubs are safe when you get there. Same thing for sporting clays, trap, and skeet. That's how the company started. My dad was a great engineer. He was a problem solver, still is, and that's how the company started. That evolved into aerospace, the packaging for the oil and gas industry, the packaging for every airplane, every helicopter in the world. That's how the company started. That evolved into oxygen generators, though. So the Value Jet crash in 1996 in Florida was kind of the precipice for how we got into the fire and heat mitigation type packaging, and also all the R&D that it takes to be able to solve those problems. That happened. It took 10 years for the FAA to get that rule through DOT. Probably because of some of the people on this panel that slowed it down. No, not truly. It was very unreasonable, but we're the only we're the only manufacturer left that actually designed a product for oxygen cylinders and oxygen generators. There was a few others in the beginning, but those packages are used every day on cargo, in the cargo bay of the planes that you fly on. So if it's a oxygen compressed or oxygen generator in that cargo bay being transported to another airplane to be installed, it's in our packaging. That transitioned into lithium. How did that happen? Well, that was kind of not by accident, but the packaging was tested thoroughly, tested and rigorously, and the FAA called one day, literally, you don't expect this, but the FAA called one day and said, we need to buy some of your oxygen generator packaging. And of course we said, what? Why? And they would not tell us. So they ended up testing our oxygen generator packaging for lithium batteries. The FAA Fire Tech Center in Atlantic City was doing a lot of testing at the time on lithium batteries, and they wanted to find, are there any suitable sources, any suitable packaging out there that might have a chance of containing some of the thermal events of lithium batteries. And so our packaging kind of passed, and it was, that's how we found out about it. Next happened to be Apple, one of the best consumer electronic companies in the world, and I'm not going to shy away from it. Lisa Rundy is sitting right here in the front row, but because of her, those packages needed to be really developed for lithium batteries, and so we'd already started doing a lot of testing. If you've ever seen Mythbusters on TV, that's kind of how a lot of our lithium battery testing started, in the backyard, blowing things up, setting things on fire, seeing what it would do. Worst case scenario, you just see what it can do, and then you find ways to solve it. But once we had really good solutions kind of in the works, Apple caught on and said, we need something, we want to be proactive. We do not want to wait until someday we might have an event, and next thing you know, we're behind the 8 ball, and what are we going to do? And we don't have the time anymore. So they got in front of it. So we did quite a bit of development testing, and thanks to Bob Richard and Apple, at the time, we received the first special permit from DOT for damaged defective lithium batteries by air. And that's a big, monumental, award we should put on a wall someday. The problem is like within 6 months, I think we killed it. We said, we don't want the air part. Please take that away. Not because of the FAA, but because no air carrier in the world really wanted and would accept damaged defective lithium batteries by air. And so we said, take that complexity away. Let's solve the problem a different way. We can move these things by ground, by vessel, however we need to do it in a very safe manner. So that's really the genesis of how the lithium battery packaging started. That was in 2014, 2013. I don't remember right now, but that's pretty far back. We're going to talk about what's in the book. And the best way to do that is probably give you 4 or 5 bullet points, but then I want to tell you a story. Recall, chapters 1 and 2, recall. What is a recall? If you don't know what a recall is, you probably should find out. And if you're an OEM or a consumer electronics device company or anybody who uses lithium batteries and manufactures them, and you don't have a plan for that, that's what we do on a daily basis. And I mean, we, from that end of the panel to this end of the panel, it's what we do. What happens when you have to get it back out of the field? Recalls are huge, and if you're not prepared for it, it's a disaster, catastrophic disaster. Regs, how are the regulations built? How are they built at the US level? How are they built and designed at the UN level? And everyone on this panel sits on regulatory committees in order to help drive which way those regulations are being written. Not only drive it, and I have to say this, just because we're in this room, but we have a voice at that table that not many people have. And I don't say that to be, patting ourselves on the back. It's just that we have so much experience that when we come to those meetings and we really talk about what are the real issues, we do the testing. We do the hard part. We do the analytics on how can you write the regulations? How can you develop packaging? How can you mitigate the risk? That's all it really is. Is it safer? Prove it. So that's what we do, and we provide a lot of analytical evidence in those meetings, which means we really have a strong voice in those meetings. We're really persuading the future regulations on a regular basis. DOT, the committees, the G27, these are all R&D efforts for Americase packaging, but they're also compliance and regulatory major issues for what the future regulations look like. And we'll talk a little bit later about how the regulations today came about. Thank you, Bob, and others, Dwayne. But how did we get to these regulations, and how are we going to make them future-proof for what's going on tomorrow? HazMat packaging and containment. We have our own internal resources, not just from an engineering standpoint of view, but actually an R&D lab. I mentioned Mythbusters. Yeah, that's how it started. But now we have a company called Fulcrum Testing. Fulcrum Testing is like a third-party test lab, except they don't do all of the tests that are required by standards that are already written. They do all the testing that's in development of standards that need to be written. So we do that on a proactive basis. All right, I want to tell you a story. So, and the reason I want to tell you this story is HazMat Safety Consulting, Americase, and Fulcrum Testing, yeah, we have one mission: to make the world safer with respect to lithium batteries. Doesn't matter if they're new, doesn't matter if they're old, doesn't matter if they're going to recycle, doesn't matter what mode they're being shipped by, doesn't matter if they've been recalled or not, does not matter. That's our mission, and we collectively have that mission. The best story I can tell you, and part of it is in the book, not all of it can be written down in a way that really can be conveyed. So the part that's not written, it is public knowledge, and this company has allowed us to do white papers on this subject before, but it really can't be put into black and white ink and really convey what I'm about to convey. And if it goes a little bit long, I'm sorry, but we're here, we might as well enjoy it, right?
Do it.
Samsung now Galaxy Note 7. Anybody remember that phone? Yep. You had one? Who had a Samsung Galaxy Note 7? Well, this is not one because they all came back. They all had to come back. 2 million of them had to come back. They called August, whatever, 25th, 26th or something like that in 2016 and said, we think we have a problem, but we're not really sure. Do you have packaging for this? And luckily, thank you, Lissa, we'd already done quite a bit of development testing on lithium battery packaging specifically for this type of recall prior to that. And so they called and said, what can we do? How do we do this? And of course, they didn't know what they didn't know. And that is a very key phrase. Most companies, most organizations who deal with lithium batteries don't know what they don't know because they don't have all of the depth of experience that it takes to really fully understand this. And so when something like this happens, it's catastrophic to their brand, and they want, what is the fastest way, the cheapest way, whatever you want to call it, how do we get out of this situation? Please get me out of this situation. And of course, on day one, they called and said, you know, we think we have a problem. Maybe it's a few 100,000 phones with one battery manufacturer, but it wasn't. It was actually all of the batteries that were being produced to this faulty design were going to have this issue. And if you recall, not many days after that first phone call, the FAA actually banned that phone from being on an airplane, not in the cargo bay, not in the luggage compartment. You couldn't bring a device that was called the Galaxy Note 7 onto an airplane. That's how bad it was. Cars were being set on fire, homes were being set on fire, and so it was a pretty bad catastrophic failure for them, and it was a design flaw. So Samsung needs to get out of this, right? Well, now it's a big brand issue, and within 3 or 4 days, there's CFOs, CEOs, and VPs of every division on the planet for Samsung at our doorstep. Literally, they all came to Texas and said, let's figure this out. And of course, they don't know what they don't know, right? So the design process, the development process, and the testing process did take some time, but we developed a very robust packaging that could contain all of the hazards for this device. And of course, they came to see it. And when they did, one of the best stories ever was VPs, CFOs, everybody in the room at our little tiny test lab at the time. And one of the packaging engineers said, well, let me back up. There's an outer box that's very fireproof. There's an inner box that makes it very stable and drop-proof and stack-proof and all those things. And then there's another inner box. that third inner box was really a replacement of the OEM box. If you had a phone shipped to you today from Apple or Samsung or anybody else, what does it come in? A very beautiful, right, OEM package, because when you open that box, they want you to feel and understand all the emotions behind their brand, and so there's OEM packaging is extremely important to them. And what I'm about to tell you just proves that. This guy from Korea we couldn't speak a lick of English, but he was in our facility looking at our packaging design, and out of all the things that we did, we showed him a phone blowing up, fires coming out, and the packaging containing it, looking at the final solution that's going to go out, we had to provide that OEM replacement box, and it was like 1 millimeter too tall. And so he's fiddling with it and looking at it and just using his hands, and he goes, this is not right. It's just not right. Something's wrong about this replacement OEM box, and it was just a little bit too tall. It was the right length, it was the right width, but it was a 1 millimeter too tall, and so he wasn't having it. And we had to overcome that. And I'll just leave the rest to your imagination, but that did have to happen, and we did end up making this packaging solution for Samsung. Now, fast forward through this here's where we move mountains. Yes, we had a special permit, but what does that mean? Well, now we have to have third-party logistics companies that can actually bring back all of this, sort it, inspect it, go to recycling, go to repair, or whatever. We have to have a packaging system that's being produced by multiple vendors. At the time, on day 6, we did not have a facility or the floor space to be able to produce the amount of boxes or the amount of packaging SKUs that it would take to be able to do this recall in the amount of time that Samsung wanted to do it. So finally, on day 8, when Samsung realized, hey, we just have to do this, and this is the thing that's going to get it done, they finally gave us the green light to go forward, and within 4 days, we leased a building, flew all kinds of equipment, and I mean hundreds of pieces of equipment, not all of them giant, but quite a bit, and set up 13 assembly lines to be able to build 25,000 handmade fireproof packages a day for them. And this recall that Samsung was very much wanting to be done was done in 3 months. The book talks a little bit about that. It talks about the why. It talks about the expertise that it took to pull that off. It doesn't tell you the whole story about the people that were involved to have 150 new employees arrive within day 5 or day 6 to be able to pull that off. And it doesn't talk about the people that built all the machines and installed this facility to get it done in the 3 months that they needed it done by. But after day 5 of us starting up that facility, we were already in production. So that's what we did. That's Americase. So I do want to, and again, the book has a lot of other anecdotal and very important information in it, and it will give you a very good baseline. Whether you have any experience with lithium batteries and the hazards of lithium batteries or not, it will teach you a lot about those hazards and what questions you should be asking. How do we go about determining what should we do next? Should we have a plan for this? How do we deal with it if we have an event in our facility? How do we deal with it if we have an event in transportation? Whatever. It talks about a lot of those things. So I encourage you to take a look at it. I have some special thanks to give you. So the first one is our moderator, Mike Pagel. There's not a person in the room that's more of a walking encyclopedia of the current regulations than Mike Pagel. And when you need to understand, okay, here's what we need to do, here's where we need to go, and here's how we think we should get there, you should definitely bounce it off of Mike Pagel. He will get you there. He understands the technical expertise of exactly why this works and where to go find it. He will cross all the T's and dot all the I's. Go ahead.
So when Robbie just said that, I saw about 10 heads in the room
yes.
do this. Yep. Yep. So if there's any verification that is absolutely a true statement, it was that. So thank you for bringing that up. And it was fun to watch about 10 of you do this. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Stole my thunder. I was going to
If
say
he
that.
didn't come on board when I was starting the company, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. And thank you for the contributions to the book. Raymond James couldn't be here. He's with Fulcrum Testing. He's back in Texas doing testing right now because we have some very critical testing that had to be done, and so they canceled it last minute. They weren't able to be here. Raymond, not a mad scientist, but a very genius scientist. And so electrical engineering, battery technology, and failure modes just stop there. If you don't know what all that means, this is why we have a Raymond James, because he understands what those things mean and how to deal with it, okay? So, his expertise in being able to get these things tested and actually triaged and understood and diagnosed is incredible. I don't know why you're third, Bob, but I might skip you, I don't know. Bob Richard, I mentioned a minute ago. First of all, founder of HSC, or HazMat Safety Consulting. The Samsung Note 7 event, the reason why I started with that story is that actually was the inception of HazMat Safety Consulting. At the time, Bob wasn't with HazMat Safety Consulting because we haven't started it yet. But the involvement with Americase and all of our strategic partners, and Bob was one of them obviously, led to, hey, there's something bigger here that nobody understands and nobody really has the bandwidth or the resources to deal with it. We should start something. And I think Chris said it best. About that same time, not long after the event, he was sitting at a conference, probably Costa or Perba or one of the major battery or dangerous goods events in the world, And colleagues from around the world are sitting there, and he goes, hey, everyone, tell me the truth. Do you see a need for this? And he painted a picture of, do you see a need for this? And if we had this, if we developed this company, should somebody design this company and start it or not? And the unanimous vote was, oh my gosh, you have to start that. And that was another list around it. And also George Kirshner was there. I see him in the back row. Don't know how you got back there, but there was a lot of really important people at the table and said, the industry, the world has to have that, Chris. And of course, we didn't know what we were going to do about it then, but months later, we did it, and we started it. So thank you, Bob. And your contributions to the book, not only did he write the foreword, obviously, but his impact and influence over all of our ideology and understanding of how the understanding of lithium batteries and hazards works, and also the regulations. It's incredible. So.
One person. Don Berger was instrumental in giving that special permit.
Yeah.
It took 5 days, so thank you, Don.
No special permits ever happened in
5 days.
Probably the anthrax or the Ebola. A special permit might have happened quicker than 5 days, but that's it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, short list. Derek Cunningham.
Yeah, the list is fairly long, but yeah.
Derek Cunningham is he's our director of engineering, so thank you for standing up, Derek. Thank you. They call it farm to table, or we could call it design or idea to actual functionality in a packaging system. And that man right there is able to do it and understand it and make sure that we stay on track. Thank you, Derek. Joel Chikakal. Will you please stand? Joel, nice bow tie, Joel. Joel understands, fast forward, not DDR, not damage effective so much, but if you imagine the scale up that's involved with data centers right now specifically, and the amount of lithium batteries that are going through our transportation system and logistics channels, but also through our warehouses and into data centers, this man understands that better than no one on earth, probably, right? So your inspiration and understanding of that market particularly has a lot of bearing in this book, Joel. Thank you. Books don't get written by people like us. I don't write a book. I can talk. I can edit. I can do a lot of things like that. I can tell you stories. I can tell you the why we did it this way and why we didn't do it that way. But when the editors get in the room and they go, okay, how do we write that down? And Maria Bratt, are you in here? Is she not? Oh, there you are. Maria, thank you so much. You assembled all of this and made it a glorious package. Graphic design made it look beautiful and elegant and readable. I don't see her. Yeah, is she in here, Cindy? There you go, Cindy. Thank you, Cindy Engel. Hi. What? Yeah, James. James Emerson, thank you for also. Yeah. No, Jake. Thank you, Jake. You're in the back right there. So we talked earlier today. And Jake, publishing guidance, man. Thank you so much for doing all this. Any question we had that we haven't actually published a book before.
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
Never.
And so we have all kinds of understanding to understand, and we didn't know that. And Jake has been a guiding force in that. Thank you so much, Jake. Yeah. Beth Simplowski-Martori. Oh my gosh. So the idea of writing a book was Beth's. And we said, I don't know what you're talking about. We are doers, we are fixers, we are solvers. We do these things and we don't write books. And Beth says, no, you've already written a book, you just don't know it. And so she said, you led the charge. And without that, we wouldn't even be talking about a book launch right now. So thank you so much, Beth. And Marina Malamus, where are you, Marina? Okay, so yeah, we would not have a book if it wasn't for Marina. We can have all the vision in the world, we can have all the commitment in the world, but if somebody doesn't stay on it and hold us accountable to getting it done, writing this, writing that, editing this, correcting that, and also keeping every part of the puzzle on track, we would not have a book. So thank you so much, Marina. Okay, and in closing, in 2019, the lithium battery inventors, if you want to call them that, they received the Nobel Prize for developing a technology that created this wireless world. So just think, wireless world would not exist if we didn't have lithium batteries, right? Because if we had lead acid batteries or anything else as a power source, it would weigh 1 million pounds and nobody would ever use a consumer electronic device at all. So in 2019 this happened, and that same energy proves and provides exactly why we are doing what we're doing. The wireless world exists, but what are the risks associated with that? And I don't know that they didn't think about it, but I know that the ramifications of it, especially scaling up through the global supply chain and infrastructure and into consumers' hands, had ramifications that nobody was ready to deal with. And if you just go to the current regulations about lithium batteries, there are 2 codes, 3480 and 3481. We'll skip over metal for a minute. But that's it. That's the only way to classify these things. And it's just a lithium battery. Well, that's not true. They perform differently, they behave differently, they do different functions, and they very much behave differently when they're going through a hazardous event. And so this team of people understands that to no degree. You can't put a number on it, you can't put a price tag on it, you can't put a number of years on it, but that's why we're here today. I want to thank you again for being here. This is a great crowd, by the way, so I don't want to steal any more thunder from why we're here. This is a great book. We hope you enjoy it. I do want to get right into the panel and some of the Q&A because the expertise on the panel is really why we're here. It's not just a moment about a book, it's really about a moment of why we're here and for what we do. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being here. I'm going to turn it right back over to Mike. Thank you, Mike.
So, trying to see if I was planning to kind of wander a little bit, but maybe it's working out now. All right, so I will be able to. Okay, so great work, Robbie. I guess where I would start the panel. Lithium batteries are everywhere, right? If you're anything like me, you probably have a lithium battery in your pocket. I actually have 1 lithium battery in my iPhone. I have, there's probably 2 per earbud. The earbud case, I have 4 or 5. I drive a Tesla. I know the guys from Texas still give me a hard time about that. I love that car. I'm not giving it up. So we're talking about lithium batteries, and I think, from my experience doing this for 10, 12 years, a lot of the technology has advanced rapidly, in terms of where they're used, energy content, energy density. But I think there's been a kind of a lag when it comes to the safety aspect. And what I understand is this book is tackling that exact issue. How do we catch up on the safety aspect of lithium batteries and not letting the technological aspect just run wild? So I guess the best place to start probably would be the beginning. So Bob, in my notes here say a few minutes or less. We'll see. I know we do have a few minutes left over, so that's fantastic. So Bob, I want to understand, you spent obviously decades at the DOT, specifically PHMSA, of course. If you can kind of walk us back a little bit through the history of lithium batteries, when they were first kind of adopted into the regs, and how those regulations have evolved in the last, 20, 30, 40?
60.
60 years, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My illustrious colleagues here gave me 3 to 5 minutes, so I better get at it. Okay, so start. NASA develops the first lithium battery in 1965, and it wasn't really ready for commercial application, and it was a little bit volatile, and I don't think they really solved that problem even today. Early efforts failed, high volatility. In the 70s, believe it or not, John B. Goodenough. Now, Goodenough develops a lithium battery, okay? And he's the one that got one of these Nobel Prizes that we just talked about, right? Sony finally, in 1991, develops commercialized batteries that can be used in cell phones and other applications, so that was good. And then 2000s, and I'll get into some of the regulatory changes, there was a surge and multiple consumer products starting using lithium batteries. And then today, we're still working on how to solve this. I have to say, as a regulator, I started in 1992 at DOT, and I finished my career there at 2010. So I'm responsible for some of this. But the way that we tackled this, we didn't know what we didn't know. Okay, and it's really a Band-Aid approach all the time, much reactionary. Every time an incident occurred, we're like, okay, let's change the regulations. Let's do something else. Let's try to fix this. And of course, Congress is breathing down our neck, and NTSB, my good friend Paul over there, it wasn't all his responsibility, some of his colleagues, issuing all kinds of recommendations to us. I used to call them NTSOB, I'm sorry. But let me get into it. So in 1970, lithium batteries were only transported by exemption. not special permit, we called them exemptions back then, and they were called flammable, solid, dangerous when wet, because lithium is dangerous when wet, so it made sense. Let's just do it that way, right? And you really couldn't transport them on an airplane. You had to have approval to even transport them. There weren't even any UN numbers or proper shipping names in the regulations until much later. 1989, the UN model regulations, the UN Subcommittee on Transport of Dangerous Goods, adopted a new proper shipping name and UN numbers, only for all lithium batteries, whether they're metal or ion. They're assigned to class 9. So, we always got a lot of feedback like, why are they class 9? It should be 4.3 like they were in the beginning. No, because we thought we only knew lithium metal batteries and they were hermetically sealed. And we're like, oh, well, they're not going to be subject to water, so we don't have to worry about it. So we put them in class 9. They've been there ever since. 1999 was really a big time. So we had LAX, and we had a fire on the tarmac with lithium metal batteries. I don't think we knew the volatility of them until that event occurred. We kept putting water on it, and it kept sparking up, even getting worse. And then my good friends at NTSB made us lots of recommendations, and we were under pressure. So what we did at that time was we banned them on passenger aircraft. Now, we banned them at PHMSA, or RISPA, whatever we were at that time. But it took a long time before the rest of the world actually banned them as well. ICAO didn't follow up right away. Everybody asks, why do lithium batteries that are 12 kilograms or greater are allowed such exceptions? I don't know. We did it back in 2001. But it's a great exception. Ask George. 2003, a lot went on. I mean, the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, made lots of changes. They gave some exceptions. They said only 30 kilograms per package, and we created these special provisions, A88 and A99. 88, it's if you have a prototype battery, you can ship it by air if you have an approval. And A99, if it's over 35 kilograms, you have to have an approval, which is not too bad for Americase because we have packaging that are used for those approvals, so it's a good thing. Let's see. 2008, here's another landmark, an exception for marking lithium button cells, so they're basically not regulated. Another reason, I don't know why, but they're probably not really that dangerous, supposedly. And then I think 2014, there was this ICAO multidisciplinary lithium battery transport coordination meeting. I was already gone. My good friend Dwayne was involved with that, and FAA. So they were tasked with making all kinds of recommendations on how to prove lithium battery safety. And 2016 was a huge year. So 2016, we'd had multiple crashes. We lost some pilots, cargo airplane crashes involving lithium batteries. And anytime there's there's a crash, it's always, it must be lithium batteries. It must be lithium batteries. And they don't always have the proof, but it was likely that it was lithium batteries. So ICAO really jumped into action, and they implement emergency changes to the lithium battery regulations. I think we tried to get away from a full prohibition on aircraft for both metal and ion, and then we got overruled by the ICAO larger body and said, nope, we're doing that. And then the 30% stated charge for ion batteries came into play. And then they prohibited some of the smaller batteries from having so many exceptions. And in 2017, it depends on what the airlines and the carriers are doing, right? So FedEx and UPS said, we're not messing with this anymore. I mean, FAA was saying, why are some of these batteries not getting any markings or hazard communication? So they said, we're not taking them unless they're fully regulated.
Yeah.
That was huge. And then I'm almost done. I knew we were going to do this. Some of the other things, really quick, there was a new test summary. I worked with George on that, a couple things. Amendments to damaged battery requirements, amendments to protocol batteries. And then today, and I think Dwayne could probably talk about this, we have the informal working group on lithium batteries. Yep. Robbie and Dwayne and Ryan here are now involved. I'm out. But
we're certainly going to get there. Don't jump the gun on us.
That's a very important thing. So we're not done. It's not done.
I don't know if this is intentional. I know we talked about, obviously, the titles of everybody on the stage, but I don't know if most of them in the room probably knows these folks. But I don't know if it's intentional to put all the regulators on this side of the stage. But between these three, I don't know, 60 years combined at the Pipeline HazMat Safety Administration before joining up as HazMat Safety Consulting. Obviously in the center here, Robbie and Chris with Americase International on the packaging manufacturer side. Friend John Redmond here spent a lot of time at both GM and Toyota running the dangerous goods operations, and of course Dalen working on the actual emergency response side of thing. I want to kick it back though, and I appreciate that intro from Bob on the history of it. I want to jump to Dwayne. Notes say you spent 25 years at DOT, specifically PHMSA, and I think you have been out of the agency less than 1 year, so very, very fresh. So having just left, what gaps do you see now between what's existing in the regulations and what you see out there in practice?
Oh, sure. So what I see, many organizations I talk to now, they look at lithium battery safety as a paperwork drill. Yeah. The product's already been procured, the battery's been integrated into the final product, then it gets to the logistics and they have to sort through the regulations. And how many of you have said how complicated the regulations are, right? Because they didn't think about it ahead of time. Now, as a regulator, we're looking at as a risk mitigation structure of the regulations. And so Bob said the Band-Aid approach, I like to say it's incremental safety improvements. Yeah. And so over time, we do, yes.
It's too soon.
Yeah, yes.
He's still there.
So over time, he talked about developing a structure as Class 9, and a lot of that was to deal with laptops, to get them into. We wanted to market those, passengers can carry them on board. We needed Class 9, brought in some testing of the 38.3 that was more focused on abuse by consumer than necessarily transport. But it was good government. It was a way to bring in safety from multiple sectors under the transportation realm. But that worked because the technology just blossomed, right? It blew up. You got all kinds of extra or different chemistries, compositions, sizes, applications, volume, but the regulators kept still seeing risk in the system. Yeah. And Bob talked a little bit about some of the incidents and that. So regulators had to do something. They couldn't disrupt what was currently there because that had helped the industry really move forward and market globally. So that's where the Band-Aid or incremental safety approach keeps adding in. And what then you get is all these options. And why that from a government perspective, I don't know if any of rulemaking in the United States, it's very rare you can take a big swing, a home run. Yeah. You have to chip away at it because you got to demonstrate there's a problem, you got to demonstrate your solution fixes that problem, and you have to demonstrate it's cost effective. And how do you do that? It's really hard, right? So these smaller fixes sort of help get where you want to be, but it also creates this challenge of all these options. Yeah. Which from the government side, we thought that was good. Now that I working with organizations, that's not so good. Because now how do I figure out which one's mine, right? And so how do you make it more simple? Well, make it more simple. You either regulate everything at the highest level or everything at the lowest level, and now you've got that competition. Yeah. You can't do it. So the gap, one of the gaps is, I think as a regulator, we sort of took on board that the majority, the volume is the original manufacturer. They've integrated their engineering, their product safety, their logistics teams all into the development of this. And so that they sort of had some trade-offs, right? Like either you're going to have to pay extra to fully ship it as fully regulated, and maybe it's a smaller volume, and not so much, or you're going to have to maybe take some choices on customer satisfaction or demand, and maybe have smaller batteries or less power if you want to stay under the accepted area. So, but that's not really sort of what you see a lot. So you see in many organizations, the logistics team is handed the products already developed. Yes. Yep. And then they say, you figure out how the regulations apply. Yeah. And so how do we solve that? We try to continue to get organizations to think about it earlier. Mm-hmm. You work with the engineering staff, their product safety staff a little bit earlier. To say, okay, you're going to have some trade-offs here. Yeah. And from a regulator, you're worried about risk mitigation, and from the organization, they're really looking at lowest regulatory liability. Yeah. How do I get to that lowest level? Yeah. No, I think that's a really interesting perspective, and it actually just dovetails perfectly into hopping over the other side of the fence, right? So we're hearing from the regulatory side, here's what we're trying to do, here's the system we're putting in place. But I want to see what John Redmond has to say in terms of
spending years and years running dangerous goods programs at Toyota, at GM, when the regulations change, how does that look from an actual practical reality?
I got to jump in real quick.
Ryan's
I can't be the only former regulator that doesn't say anything about the regulations, right? So I think what's really important to remember is it's the Department of Transportation. Things have to move.
Yeah.
And so the idea of saying, well, no, we're not going to move any of these things, right? There's been incidents, there's been accidents. No one can say these aren't going to move because you know what? They're going to move anyways. They're just going to move unregulated.
Yeah.
And that's when really bad things happen. And so it's the idea of working with industry. It's the idea of saying, what risk are we okay with?
Yeah.
And how can we mitigate that
balance
risk?
between safety and commerce.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Always.
So now
difficult
move to
balance.
commerce. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, and so John, having heard that,
Wait, Mike, let me jump in.
No, you're cut off.
I only had 3 minutes. Wait, I only had 3 minutes.
Yeah, John, all right. We need to get
It's a fun anecdote.
So you guys can spin it however you need to. I want to hear from boots on the ground how it actually works.
Yeah, it's not true. I think the regulators are well intended,
Of course.
to try and make sure that whatever we're transporting is safe, and so that is critical. There you go.
I'm listening.
Maybe not. Hey, but so that is really what one of the challenges is when regulations change. Remember, we're a global supply chain. So we're moving cells, batteries from Asia into the US, creating them in Asia, moving some in the air, moving some by ground, and some by vessel. And that's really a huge problem for us. The complexity of what you actually have for our shipping departments is a huge challenge. So not every lithium battery is a lithium battery.
Yeah.
And then even once you get to the point where you understand, okay, what product do I have? All the logistics groups that you have through your entire organization, how do they know what they have? You can't have multiple people trying to classify the material based off of their best assumption. You have to have procedures and processes in place. So when there is a change, it's not just, oh, we're changing a label, or we're changing a code, or we're changing a classification. That system goes all the way back to your engineering group, and you have to start communicating there. You have to start testing your batteries, making sure you know how they are going to react, where they are going to fall within the regulations, then creating the training and the structure in place, updating all your systems so that you can properly identify how that item is going to be shipped, and then integrating that all the way through the supply chain. And remember, it's not just moving it to one location to a manufacturing facility. Once that vehicle hits a dealership, now you're recovering that battery and bringing it all the way back as well. So it's an extremely complex supply chain that you have to manage. The regulation changes are very substantial and creates a lot of challenges. Yeah. The more proactive you can be, definitely the better off your organization is going to be on how to systemize all those different complexities. Yeah. And then, we can really look at kind of a watershed moment was the Felicity Ace 2022. Yeah. So you had an EV being shipped on a vessel, and it ended up being a loss to vessel. The liabilities, the cost liabilities to the manufacturer that may be held responsible, you're looking at $500 million to $1 billion in liability. So making sure we have things correctly in place, we're properly classifying the batteries, and we're properly transporting them. I think the other piece of it is how to become more proactive.
Yeah.
So understanding not just what the regulatory minimum is, but understanding how my battery is going to react, and then what do I need to do to be able to put that into a packaging that's going to have the performance capabilities to protect not only the vessel operator, potentially the air operators, there's special permits to move large batteries in the air, yeah, but also people, the consumer, all of our loved ones out there in the community that are, whether they know it or not, flying around or moving around around a great deal of lithium batteries. So that would be one of the other challenges. And I think a great example of that is Act 209 right now with the Hawaiian government. So I was able to be selected to be a part of Act 209, where we're working on developing what that best practice is to get lithium batteries off the island. So we have a regulatory path to do it. We can put them on a vessel, but no vessel operator will take them because of the risk, the uncontrolled risk that you have with the lithium batteries. So that allows us then, as OEMs, to look at how do we protect our brand, how do we develop packaging solutions that will contain the thermal vent, how do we put mitigation techniques in place so that we can convince or prove, better word, the vessel operators that it's actually safe to engage in this activity. And so it's a whole supply chain coordination that has to take place, and working with most of the partners up on the board and probably most of the people in the audience from time to time has really been helpful.
Yeah,
So.
Amazing. Okay, so I want to pivot a little bit here to emergencies. So ESA, so Dalen here with the Energy Security Agency, you train first responders on how to respond to lithium battery incidents. That's what you do, right? And so the way I think about it is, how prepared is industry to deal with lithium battery incidents, lithium battery thermal runaway? What do you see out in the field in terms of companies that, do they invest a lot in it? Do they pretend it's not an issue? What do you see out there from the actual thermal runaway mitigation?
Great question. There's massive gaps. As the technology advanced and imploded onto the scene globally, the fire service was kind of the last thought within that spectrum. So there was no mechanisms built for them. It's been a catch-up, light speed chase from the beginning and inception of lithium-ion batteries to try and keep up with the advancements and the infiltration of that as a product. To us, it is a new fuel source, and fuel sources are solvable by the fire service. They've done that throughout the history of emergency operations, but understanding the complexity of lithium-ion as a fuel load is not easy. There's not mechanisms globally currently to create a consensus of both educational template. Are we all going to agree about how we address these problems? And then what is the modality to deliver that to the fire service? And then what is the financial structure to deliver that? It doesn't exist. So this is a very hard fought battle, piece by piece within the fire service, to try and educate, create campaigns, create mechanisms to provide real-time technical guidance. Those are all things that we analyze and try and create solutions for. On the flip side of that, when we think about the other face of the fire service, it's International Fire Code, it's International Building Code, it's International Safety Code. So there's another side to regulation, which is we're talking about the regulation of transportation, the regulation of product, consumer good packaging. There's a whole other side to this, which is when a data center wants to establish their operations, they're going to answer to a fire marshal. Yeah. And uniquely, predominantly in the U.S., he is the all-knowing czar of power and provision about what takes place. Currently, especially in the U.S., and I'm not misrepresenting it by saying somewhat abroad as well, there is a wide range of comfort level for that individual regarding, do I know anything about lithium-ion batteries and the installation that's getting ready to take place? Or do I know something about it? And somewhere in that huge scope of spectrum is the all-knowing power to say, I'm going to give you a permit to do your operations, or I'm not. So that's the other passionate running lane for us, is we're trying to equip that world to understand those IFC, IBC, and NFPA codes, help them interpret them, which is where a lot of the synergy with Americase and that as a solution is really encouraging to us. Our number one passionate goal for the fire service is always to keep them safe. We want to see our brothers and sisters go home at night, and we want to protect the communities where products are in place. When something comes along that is not snake oil, magic elixir, or false pretense, which we're inundated with right now in the fire service, and it's a practical solution that helps not only reduce the infrastructure demand on occupancies, you have to develop the most robust state-of-the-art suppression system, detection system, all the above. When we could create an intermediary resource that says, by simply placing a battery in this type of product, this is going to contain everything that we're most inherently concerned about as a fire service. It's going to manage the toxicity, it's going to manage the fire load, it's going to reduce how this is going to propagate through the structure. It's not going to impact communities like we see consistently in the news when we have massive warehouse events and all these things that cascade. That for us makes us huge fans. Yeah. So when we're working with occupancy assets to say, here is a variety of solutions that we can provide you with to help you meet compliancy with code, to help you be comfortable as a fire service, and to help make sure that the community is more receptive to the integration of this technology, that's a huge win for us. So we've really enjoyed the synergy of engaging our world, which is all about the practicality of what we see every day, which we do global response in every facet, maritime, land, air. We board ships in the middle of the ocean, and we're the guys that are engaging with this stuff in its worst possible environment. When we can prevent that and eliminate our deployments in those settings and make them more manageable, we're moving in the right direction. So how do we close the gap? We put everything in Americase cases.
Yeah. that key change is that not only do you have a container that meets your regulatory requirements for transportation for PHMSA, you have a container that meets all your fire code, performance standard and requirements as well. And then for organizations, you have a product then that you know you can transport high-risk items or high-risk items, lithium batteries, even DDR batteries, but you can do that in a way that'll protect the brand. And that's kind of the three-legged stool that really serves us well.
Yeah, that's such an important point of this, what happens when things go wrong, mitigation. I want to get back to the front end of it, though, in terms of actual inherent hazards. So probably as everybody, or most everybody in the room is aware, there's an ongoing UN project to take a look at the actual granular level of lithium cells and batteries to understand which ones are more hazardous than others. So we're going to actually identify the concerned batteries versus the ones that are benign or really cause no problem. So looking at that landscape, I'll start with Ryan, and then we can have Dwayne and Bob fill in a little bit as well. But if you're looking at this radical project to reclassify all lithium cells and batteries, we're not just talking ion and metal, where you could be talking about a lot of different things. What does that look like in practice? You know, when that actually it filters down into the regulations and becomes effective.
So all the global transport regs start at the UN subcommittee of experts for the transportation of dangerous goods. It's a group of about 38 to 40 countries from around the world and non-governmental organizations. And the three of us were all delegates to the UN on behalf of the US DOT. And now we've spent time representing NGOs and industry at these same groups. When they break off, when they have a big issue like lithium batteries, they break off what's called an informal working group. And in that room, nobody is, everybody's equal.
Everybody's an expert, though.
Well, everybody.
Right, George? Everybody at the UN is an expert.
Right, but everybody's equal in that room. And so it's open conversations. Robbie participated in that and brought forward a lot of testing data. That is invaluable to those people in that room. When I was and Don Berger's here, and Don and I worked together a long time for special permits. I used to say, well, as a regulator, we don't really do anything. We write words on paper. We do a lot of research and all of that, but we're not doing something. We're not getting 150 new employees and implementing a new space to build new packagings. We're not doing that. We're doing the research to ensure that outcome is mitigating the risks involved in it. And so this informal working group on the hazard classification of lithium batteries has put together a lot of different people from around the world in the same room to talk about if we had to do it over again, what would be the best way to move forward? And so it sort of narrowed down to, all right, well, what's the actual risk involved? What's the hazard of a lithium battery? Whether it's a lithium metal, lithium ion, any of the, or sodium ion batteries. And so what do? Well, you take some and you put it into the worst condition possible. You make it go into a thermal runaway. So if you take a cell, you put 3 together, you make the first one go into thermal runaway. What happens to the other 2? Well, most of the time they go bad too. Or you take a battery and you do the same thing. Okay, does it propagate to other batteries? So those conversations are happening. The tests were done. The problem is that when you get to implementation or you get to actual regulatory change, as Dwayne said before, in the US, there's a cost-benefit analysis that needs to be done. And so you can come up with the best way of saying, hey, listen, this is the best way to classify a battery, this is the best way to transport it. But if that cost is so far astronomical compared to the benefit, then it's going to be really hard to implement in the individual states. The US isn't the only one that has a cost benefit. It's just that's the one that we're most familiar with. And so other countries may have the same problem, is saying, okay, well, that's great and all, but we can't implement it because it's going to put us in a position where things that now are shipped safely now can't be or have to be regulated at a higher level. right? And so that's the challenge with it. It's an incredible opportunity to sit with people from around the world who are very passionate about the same types of things we're passionate about, and try to put something that's useful forward. We were at a meeting last year, and somebody asked, well, is there anybody with common sense sitting in that room? You know?
Not really.
And we were.
Well, yeah, you guys.
Yeah. And I said, listen, it's not just the regulators that are in the room. It's people like Medtronic, right? It's people like Toyota and GM. It's people that are going to have to implement this, not just the people that are writing it. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, no, that is a great perspective. So another kind of component to all of this is if you're looking at lithium battery storage, for example, it's one thing to store 10, 20, 30 lithium batteries. Now we're looking at some of these hyperscalers, data centers, other grid level storage is an entirely different ballgame. And so I kind of want to kick first to Americase, Robbie or Chris. You can kind of do rock, paper, scissors for who wants it. But if you're looking at, you're working with data centers, hyperscalers, what does it look like on that scale from a safety perspective? Not only on the packaging level, but just building level safety from that level. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'll take that question. First of all, I'd like to say it's very bad position to be the stupidest person on the stage. And I thought I was going to be the best looking until we added Dalen, so I don't have that either. Everybody understands that the data centers is obviously a growing technology that is absolutely taking over the entire world right now. And for years, it had its foothold and was doing its job, but very recently, I would say, they integrated lithium batteries into their solutions and what they were doing on a day-to-day basis. Now, these are billion-dollar companies that are putting up data centers literally on the day, and they introduce a new technology that they don't even think about the ramifications, the ripple effects of that decision. Yes, it gives them immediate power to guarantee that they can keep their money going and make their servers keep running, but they don't realize they introduced a new risk into their buildings. And these buildings do not have the infrastructure when they were built to be able to deal with that demand. So immediately, the International Fire Code comes into play. The fire marshals for occupancy comes into play. And these people that are absolutely experts at what they do all day long, every day, have this new hazard. They go, we can't have this disrupt our logistics. We can't disrupt our business. We have to keep moving. Just because some engineers decided lithium batteries need to be introduced because it made us more efficient, more effective, and potentially more profitable. Oops, now we have to do something about it. These people are moving thousands, if not millions of batteries in and out of their facilities. In every rack system, there can be anywhere from 6, 12, and now I think we're getting 24 and 48 batteries per rack. And these are large lithium batteries that, although built very safe, been tested, 38.3 tested, if something goes wrong in mishandling, if while you're storing it in cardboard boxes on pallets in your facility, if there's a thermal runaway, not only do you have risk to the facility and to harm of the people in general, you are literally adding a hazard that could have catastrophic events for them. And they need to be able to move these batteries very quickly to implement them for break-fix problems or mass transitions in their server facilities. So what do? Well, you can't have a big enough fire-safe room in your facility to house all these batteries. So that's where Americase has come in with the help of, and again, I'd like to say this, even though I've only got 35 seconds, I think it's important. I'm going to do like everybody else. I don't make decisions in a vacuum. I already said I'm not the smartest guy at the table. I'm the smartest person at the table because I understand the risks that are associated with what we do every day. And that's why we bounce everything off of people like ESA, people like HSC to say, what are the risks, what are the concerns, and how do I build a packaging solution that can ultimately keep people safe, but not disrupt the logistic flow and let them continue doing business as usual.
Awesome. All right, we're gonna make this last round real quick here.
Can I just add in there?
Lightning
Oh yeah, Robbie.
I could take the last 20
Yeah,
minutes.
go ahead, Robbie.
So in that scenario that Chris eloquently pointed out, what he didn't say is how many times has an OEM battery manufacturer or a hyperscaler or a significant user of a battery who has design intelligence involved in the battery design and should have understanding of what the hazards are, come to us and said, hey, here's our battery, we need to make storage cabinets or packaging or transport containers or whatever. And we've tested it. It's safe. It doesn't really propagate. It doesn't really do anything. Like our engineers have tested it. Whew. I don't know how they tested it or why they tested it or to what state of charge they tested it, but when it does go to real world scenarios, that's what we test for. And you have to test it at 100% SOC, and you have to test it in the way that it's going to be configured and used and transported or stored. And if it can propagate and go into every battery that's on the rack or in the unit or whatever it is, it's a real big problem. If it stops at that one battery, yeah, that's what we do. That's why you call us.
Right.
But when they come to us and say, hey, we got a safe battery here. No. Yes, the passing tests are boring. Nobody at our company loves the passing tests. They see a little puff of smoke come out. They're boring. Yes, the catastrophic ones that failed miserably because we were told, it should pass easily. No, those are the ones we want to make movies about. But yeah, you have to test it. It's not just write the regulations, and that's one of the reasons why we participate at the UN level and the IWG and other ones, is so that we can actually bring that to the table and go, you're saying this, let's go verify that.
To be fair, I was only given 3 minutes.
Yeah, well,
But I want to say one thing about that. Because we found with these clients, like especially in medical device, for instance, you make one minor change to the pack design, and you can have much safer battery. So when we do talk about the new regulations and how we're working on inherent hazards, if we make people test them before they put them on the market and understand their hazards, it's a good thing for them. Because they'll know how to design it, and these guys can tell them how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to play a fun game here. 30 seconds or less. What we need to do from each of you is just a key takeaway, a key insight that you want the audience to leave with, or just a new perspective that they would have on anything related to lithium battery safety. And let's make it quick. I know it's a tough test. I want to hear what Dalen has to say first. Right on the spot.
Wow, right on the spot, under the pressure, 30 seconds under the gun. I would say if I were to consider one other trigger that we haven't addressed here in the room, it's the environmental contractor and support mechanism globally. The environmental contractors are in the same boat as the fire service. They are not prepared with the skills, the PPE, the capabilities, the technology to address, especially large-scale decommissioning, packaging compliance. Safe transport enforcement is creating a radical problem globally on the movement of batteries because there's so much non-compliance and inability to address that stuff safely and properly. So that requires a huge educational campaign to try and get them up to speed, develop best practices, and develop more educational and robust capacity within those responders. That would probably be my number one additional.
Love it. Yeah, John, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the integration of lithium batteries into every type of product for an organization that's huge, R&D facilities, whether you have defense departments or other outside contractor type of activities, being able to identify what that lithium battery is, making sure that you are putting it in some sort of packaging, being proactive, that it can help mitigate whatever that issue is to protect not only the supply chain, but to protect the brand as well. And I think that's probably the most significant challenge any organization is going to have right now.
Chris?
I feel phone calls all day long. You need to understand the risk that is associated with the batteries that you have and train your employees. I literally turn down millions of dollars a year because of two main problems. One is your packaging is too expensive, or I don't understand the risks that are associated with it. So I say that to say that people don't understand that the regulations were written as the most common denominator, lowest threshold to move a dangerous good product, and that's not when it's damaged, defective, or recalled. When you have something that could ultimately have a dangerous evolution of heat, there's a price that comes with that. I don't sell safe packaging, or compliant packaging. I try to sell safe packaging, and you have to decide on which side of that fence you want to be on.
Love it. Robbie, what do you think?
Education for sure. You stole part of that, so I'm going to go ahead and go down the path of on the engineering side. Yes, engineers are doing what they can to develop and design safer batteries or batteries with safety built into them. And until you test them, you really don't know. And the only reason why I can say that, not to call any of them a liar, I think that their hearts and their integrity is true. And on paper, it does add up. They're doing math that says this should be a safer design with limited propagation built in. Or anti-propagation built in. And until you actually test it, you really don't know what the real world's going to do to that cell or to the flames coming out of it or to the heat that can transfer to the next cell. So just caution everybody. Just because you think it's safe, test it.
Perfect. Ryan?
Yeah, so I like to think about the things that I wish I would have known when I was at PHMSA. Two things especially is the importance and influence of fire marshals. Right? Work with your fire marshal. Get to know them. explain. They have a perspective that's super important that you need to understand so that you can both leave there feeling good about that interaction and what you're doing in the future. And also the importance and influence of insurance companies.
Yes.
They have a perspective on this as well. And if you're not communicating with your insurance company, if you're not talking to them about how you're mitigating the risks, then you're doing yourself a disservice. They are there, well, they're there to make money. But, but you need them for you to keep going.
Yeah, Bob, what do you think?
I talked about 60 years since the first battery was developed.
Yeah.
And I talked about the first ones being too volatile. We still got volatility.
Yeah.
Now, maybe we wouldn't all be here if they weren't volatile, so maybe that's not such a bad thing, but no, I'm just kidding. But, I think from a regulatory perspective, I think we need to incentivize the industry to do safer batteries. And I don't think the regulations really are cut out or they're designed that way currently. Yeah. And I'm hoping with these two guys and Robbie and Chris being involved at the UN that we're going to get there. Yeah. And it's going to be based on knowing how dangerous your batteries are and being regulated accordingly. And then some batteries can be really safe, and people are incentivized to have safe batteries. Yeah. They don't have any regulation.
Right.
So cost, it'll be cheaper.
All right, Dwayne.
No, I'll just feed into that as a closing. So this classification work at the UN, I think the big motivation was to deal with new technologies and incentivize safer designs and safer chemistries that are not as reactive and give them a way out of regulation if they can do that. And I think that's great. I think the industry really educated me and started calling it the reclassification working group because they're worried about how to integrate the existing small battery exceptions.
Sure. Yep.
Because we're finding that it's very likely many of those batteries at high states of charge that are taking advantage of these exceptions are going to propagate. Yep. And they're going to move into full regulation. And so how do you manage that? Yeah. And there may be a trade-off that companies have to do at ship them at lower states of charge and test them at lower states of charge to keep those exceptions. Or if we could find a way to build in packaging mitigation measures to help them get there too.
A lot of work to go. So I appreciate
a lot of testing work.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I appreciate everyone, of course, on the panel, but we do have time, at least 10 minutes for questions from our audience here. So I think we got Mr. Roldan. Mr. Roldan's got a microphone. Looks like James has got one back there as well. So if you have a question, now is your moment.
Softballs only, please.
Yeah.
Got a question over here.
Okay.
He's too smart. Don't let him have the mic.
Hey, thank you all so much for everything that you've done collectively for increasing and enhancing the safety of lithium-ion batteries in transportation from beginning of life through the end of life, like we work at the Battery Network. The question is about when people have batteries that are out in the field, kind of like the Samsung case that Robbie talked about. The existing battery regulations in the United States don't obligate containment. And Chris, you talked about we're making a safer packaging, not just a compliant packaging. And those that work in the packaging space know that one actually can engineer a solution that is compliant but not safe. Yeah. But from the regulator's perspective, and I would think from a user perspective, do you guys feel that it would improve the overall safety of the transportation network if the United States had P911 containment style obligations in the regulations?
Well, let me do that one because, look,
first
batteries,
I have to say we're former regulators because there are regulators in the
former regulators. Don can answer as well.
The majority of batteries are transported in fiberboard boxes. Okay, yeah. So to make every battery have to go into thermally protected packaging is. It's just not cost effective.
Genius.
We would never be able to do it. I mean, they would love it, of course. But DDR,
well,
even at the UN level,
like the bad DDR, the nasty ones.
Even at the UN level, they don't require thermal protection for DDR. Now, maybe that should be. It's going to change. And for some of the really dangerous ones, yeah, you have to do that. And companies sometimes they just voluntarily use a better packaging because they don't want to have the liability. And I do a lot of expert witness testimony to have to deal with it when that happens and people are hurt.
Yeah.
I can say that we have the battery bag, which has been obviously very successful. I think because they trust Americase and our testing so well, and for whatever reason, the test that we did was very robust, and they gave us a special permit that's up to 1,500 watt hours for that battery bag. I know for a fact that if it's 18650 is shipped in that battery bag without it being in equipment, my bag is going to fail. I know that I've never sold that bag to anybody over 150 watt hours unless I've tested it myself to know that it's going to be safe. I go to Robbie at least every 6 months.
DLT's here, man.
I go to Robbie almost every 6 months and I go, we could sell 10x more packaging, but it wouldn't be as safe. And he says, do not compromise integrity and sell them only things that you think can actually contain the event. It's a real problem when my competitors or even myself has to deal with, I have a special permit, it says you can ship it, why don't you let it go? Because there's real hazards and harms if you sell that packaging, and we have to tell people no more often than we tell them yes.
Yeah, and so containing a small, consumer electronic size is one thing. Containing something the size maybe of an electric vehicle battery is a different ballgame. John, what's your experience with the P911 DDR, that whole containment issue?
Totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
So the EV batteries, are 200,000 watt hours plus compared to a smaller battery. The risk is substantial. And the amount of confusion that exists over what is a DDR is really something that the industry needs to get their heads around. Looking at, and I know Mike and I have worked on this at some of the SAE groups, but really looking to clarify what is a DDR battery. And most of the people in the field on an end-of-life situation aren't going to have the capability, even at a dealership level, to identify if that battery is DDR. We have to bring in other resources, and from a brand protection, you have to kind of err on the side of caution if you do not know the exact status of that battery. And the companies that work with integrity are trying to do that as best they can, but any help and clarification what actually is a DDR when we have to pull that back end of life is something that we need to get done and would be a huge improvement over where we are.
Proactive teeth are really important with that as well, which we see consistently, which is the regulations are in place, but they typically can only be enforced in a reactive way once an event actually occurs. So we consistently see in the field, you'll have prolific corrosion all over 14 energy segments. And from an insurance perspective, they're looking for the lowest possible value and outlet to be able to mitigate that incident. So you get a contractor that'll come in that won't understand non-visual cues, more in-depth cues. They're looking for the basic criteria. Is it radically swollen? Did it catch on fire? Does it have water on it? If it doesn't have those kind of things, like, it's not DDR, go ahead and ship it as is. And that's a really pleasant answer to the insurance providers because that eliminates all compliant packaging, all compliant handling, potential dismantling and debussing, and so on and so forth. How we bridge that gap with insurance to make them embrace that, understand that from an actuary perspective, that it's actually going to save you, in the long run, and make them focused on that safety component is critical.
So we still have a few minutes left. It looks like Paul might have a question
I
here.
have a question real quick. So in the beginning, I believe Robbie mentioned something to do with the G27 committee may have informed the development of the Americase battery solutions. And I was wondering how that compares to, I know the G27 came out with I guess an interim standard or an initial standard in 2024. How does the Americase battery bag and the battery boxes compare with those standards?
There's no other way to say this.
It meets the
so
standard.
I'll just say it as nicely as I can. Yes, we published a standard, and yes, the genesis of the G27 standard criteria and the test criteria was based on the Americase test criteria. Developed quite a long time before that standard. So yes, it's much more robust. I think it's 100 and something pages. It goes through multimodal, multi-situational, multidisciplinary circumstances. It's a very robust standard. But the core of it is it has to contain the hazards, and you have to be able to define that. And so there's lots of letters on pages that define that and overly define it. But that standard was based on what we did initially.
Yeah, and I would say that none of our packaging is G27 certified. What we've done, because we have an active role in the G27 and the UN subcommittee on the reclassification of lithium-ion cells, all we've really done, what I think we've gleaned the most out of that at least is applicable today, is understanding from all the Genius stakeholders that were involved on how to put a battery into thermal runaway properly, how to actually gauge what would be a pass and what wouldn't be a pass. what we have to do at Americase is take little bits of each of these standards and all these tidbits of knowledge, and then ultimately apply that to our years of understanding packaging and thermal runaway, and then create something that's ultimately safe using pieces of each of these standards, not because they actually meet a threshold that says, if you do this, it's safe. You only know if it's safe if you test it. And you can only test it if you test it the right way with the right cell that's been properly designed, and then understand the hazards, and then create something. Almost always with Americase, it is bespoke and custom to that battery or that customer so that we can guarantee safety.
Going back to this gentleman's question, though, the pilots wanted every package to be thermal protected according to G27. I was I was a voting member. I did damage control. I worked with Lissa and some other people representing them, and we said no. It's only special cases to get back on passenger aircraft.
All right, we have about a minute or two left. I think Joel's got the mic. Joel might have a question for us.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. You've been throwing out a lot of acronyms, a lot of regulations. Most of us out here, we don't know these things. So if I'm an operator or an OEM integrating lithium ion into my ecosystem, what's the questions I should be asking? Because if I'm Fire Marshal Billy Bob walks into the front door, I'm trying to just run a facility, right? So what are those questions I should be asking? Is it to the battery OEM? Is it to you guys? Is it to the fire marshal? I just don't know where to start. Where would you tell me to start at?
I can tell you, you're not going to know the questions because it's so multiplicative.
That doesn't help, Chris.
Shameless plug.
Call HSC.
Shameless plug. You need to be part of organizations like the PRBA, like COSTA, like the Battery Association, or the Battery Network, I should say. I'm trying to learn your new name. Or calling experts like Americase and HSC to be able to go, let me talk about your exact issues. Everything is different. It's a snowflake approach. We can't know. There is no blanket approach. You have to educate yourself. So get around people that understand the different layers of everything that can affect you, and only do the things that actually will make actual change, safety, and actually compliance work for what you're doing, because I can't put anybody in a box. Every phone call, I take 13 a day, are completely different, and my answer to them is completely different. So the only way you can truly know is either be involved in the community through some of these trade organizations, or have an expert on your staff or someone like up on the stage and tell us your exact problem so we can diagnose it properly.
That is a fantastic way to finish us off. So quick round of applause here for our awesome panel. It's very rare you're going to see 7 individuals up on a stage like this. This type of expertise is incredible. It's a shame we only had 30 minutes, but I guess we couldn't be here for the 5 hours that I pitched for this. So, so much appreciated. Now I'm going to kick it over. Part of our program.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Mike, for moderating today, but also thank you to all the panelists. Thank you for being up here. Round of applause again for the panelists. And 2 very other important acknowledgments is everybody on the room, but also on the live stream today. Thank you for sending in your questions. Thank you for doing Q&A. As Chris just mentioned, the only way to truly understand what you have and how to deal with it is to be involved, and you have to be involved in this kind of manner where you don't know what you don't know, start asking questions. It's great. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for supporting our team effort. Thank you for supporting our book. There's a lot of accolades I could give and acknowledgments I could give to our team on the HSC side. There's a plethora of people on their side. There's a plethora of people in the ESA side. There's hundreds of people on the Americase side that make this possible to be able to put on a performance or a moderated panel like this for you today. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. I do want to shift gears. I know everybody's itching to get out of their seat, probably go get a drink or take a bathroom break or whatever, but you can't yet. Sorry. I want you to stay. Please stay. We have a very important presentation to make, and there's nobody better qualified or more qualified than you, Ryan.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Ryan.
Yeah, are we gonna switch spots?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I need my glasses for this, and I can't do this off the cuff. If you're gonna ask me about regulations or government interactions or the UN subcommittee, then I don't need my glasses, because that's just stuff that I've done for years. But this, well, I need my glasses. So, HazMat Safety Consulting, we're a global dangerous goods consulting firm, but within our DNA, we're a lot more. We are not content with being part of our industry. We want to lead it. We have an incredible team of consultants. Some of them are here, or many of them are here. Please get to know them. They're incredible sources of information. That team works together with our clients to not just get into compliance with the regulations, but to use the regulations to lead their industries and bring innovations to market safely. With that in mind, we created the HazMat Safety Consulting Lifetime Achievement Award. This award is intended to honor visionary leadership that has advanced dangerous goods safety around the world. Today, we give out the first one ever. It's my distinct honor to present the Lifetime Achievement Award to a man whose hard work has made the world safer. Whether you're on a plane or ship or on the highway, even if you've never heard of his name. That, in many ways, is the mark of a true public servant. Bob Richard has spent... Bob Richard has spent more than 40 years ensuring that dangerous goods move safely around the world, and he's done it with relentless dedication and an extraordinary command of the complex systems that hold global safety and commerce together. Bob is quite simply a force of nature. In a field defined by bureaucracy, competing interests, and the word no, Bob never accepted that as an answer, not from employees at DOT, not from industry, not from anyone who stood between him and a safer, more common sense outcome. He combines his almost inexhaustible work ethic with a rare ability to see through the BS and find the common ground between government and industry where real lasting change is actually made. The regulatory environment is often defined by resistance to act, but Bob's persistence broke through those barriers, getting the right thing done for the right reasons time and time again. It's coming. It keeps coming. It's too
Glad
good
he
of a
doesn't have
career.
5 minutes.
Bob's career reads like a masterclass in what it means to serve the American people and the dangerous goods industry at the highest level. At PHMSA, Bob served as Deputy Associate Administrator for HazMat Safety. For 5 years, he directed the day-to-day operations of the entire hazardous materials transportation safety program. Regulations, science and engineering, international standards, even enforcement. We were all driven forward by a man who simply outworked everyone in the room and refused to let good ideas die on the vine. But Bob's influence didn't stop at our national borders, far from it. He served as chairman of the UN Subcommittee of Experts on the Transport of Dangerous Goods, the UN Model Regulations, which are the foundational framework that governs how dangerous goods move across the globe, bears Bob's fingerprints. And it bears them because Bob pushed, persuaded, and persisted until the right solutions prevailed. He served as chairman of the ICAO Dangerous Goods Panel, shaping the international civil aviation regulations that govern what can fly in the belly of a plane and how. As a U.S. nominated panel member, he didn't just participate, he led. He built coalitions, he forged consensus where others only saw conflict. And when the path forward was unclear, Bob found one. At the International Maritime Organization, Bob led U.S. delegations alongside the U.S. Coast Guard.
And now my son's one of them.
Working on technical proposals in maritime, he played a pivotal role in modernizing the International Maritime Dangerous Goods Code into the structure we rely on today. Think about what that means collectively: air, sea, land. Bob Richard helped write the safety rules for all three, not because it was easy, but because he refused to stop until it was done. If you have ever worked with Bob, you know that if you tell him something can't be done, you may want to move aside because he will knock you down getting it done. What makes Bob so uniquely effective isn't just his technical mastery, which is impressive. It's his ability to bridge the worlds of government and industry. He understands both sides. He respects both sides. And he has the credibility and the sheer force of will to bring them together in pursuit of outcomes that neither could achieve alone. Since transitioning to consulting with HazMat Safety, Bob has brought the same relentless energy and depth of knowledge to his clients, ranging from multinational corporations to small businesses. Bob doesn't just know what the regulations say, he understands what they mean and why they were written that way and how to put them to work. That is a rare and invaluable gift that every client gets that he served at HSC. Bob founded and served as executive director of the Medical Device Transport Council, working tirelessly to ensure that lithium batteries and life-saving medical devices can move safely and efficiently through global supply chains. Because the stakes there aren't abstract. They're measured in patient outcomes. And Bob approached that work the same way he approaches everything, with total commitment and refusal to accept that safety and efficiency have to be in conflict, because they don't. Careers like Bob don't happen on accident. They are built by thousands of hours of hard work through the willingness to fight for what's right even when the path is long and the opposition is loud, and through an unshakable commitment to a simple but profound mission, making sure dangerous goods move safely so that people go home safely. The regulations Bob helped develop protect people who will never know his name. The organizations he has advised operate more safely because of his guidance. The partnerships he has forged between government and industry have produced results that outlasted any single administration or any single initiative. The dangerous goods industry is better because Bob Richard chose this work and gives it everything he has. Bob, on behalf of everyone here today, in a very real sense, on behalf of the traveling public around the world, thank you. For the long hours, for never taking no for an answer, for pushing us all to be better. This award is a small token of the immense respect and gratitude your colleagues hold for you in the career that has truly made a difference. Please join me in congratulating Bob Richard, the first ever HazMat Consulting Lifetime Achievement Award.
I love you, Bob. Yeah. Nobody's here without you, brother.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Rob.
That was a secret.
Yeah. I never knew you were such a good speechwriter.
I wrote it.
Actually, probably did. Oh my God, my daughter's here. And my son-in-law. Now I'm really gonna cry. No, it's just a great honor.
I heard 3.
Okay. I have to ask Beth, she's in control. No, but you know, just starting this company, these guys convinced me to do it. Robbie, my good friend over here with the red hair, Chris, and his brother came to my house. They talked to my wife, they talked to my daughter. They said, you gotta start this company. I'm like, I'm kind of comfortable where I am. And then they finally convinced me. And it was the best decision I ever made in my life. And now we have a real worldwide consulting company with beautiful people. Barbara here, I'm looking at her, and some of the, Paul, and Mr. Old Dan, my great buddy I used to go to the bars with in Geneva, Switzerland. And then these two guys, I mean, we've built a team. And I say we have the best consulting company in the world when it comes to dangerous goods. And I'm just proud of it now. And I get to spend a little more time with my grandchildren and go to the beach. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Robbie. She's good, too.
Don't make me cry. What a trip that was to your house. No question about it, Bob. Thank you, Ryan, for so eloquently putting it into words that really don't do it justice, honestly, as good as you did. We wouldn't be here talking about this today. HSC wouldn't exist without you, Bob. And this team, not only this team, but you have made such a difference in the world, making this world a better place, especially with lithium battery safety. Other things that you do too, but we're talking about lithium batteries today. So with that, thank you, family, for being here, and thank you all for joining us tonight. We are going to celebrate a little bit. I think there's a little bit of a mixer happy hour planned for you guys. So if you guys want to take over, you're absolutely welcome to. But please come congratulate Bob.
Beth's got one thing.
Oh, yes. Go to the video.
Give me a napkin.
G'day, Bob.
All right, Bob, my guy.
Bob, congratulations on your retirement.
You're clearly far too young.
Retiring, not a term I would usually associate with Bob Richard.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Bob, you've been an inspiration for your energetic and tireless defense of the industry and a promoter of safety in the transport of dangerous goods.
I've always appreciated the work you've done in the HazMat community, your many years at PHMSA, your leadership, your ability to push for win-win situations.
When I first met Bob Richard, I thought, wow, this guy is bilingual. He speaks bureaucraties and English, and he truly cares about safety.
I went to the school of Bob Richard. The way that you not only see the regulations is really important, but so much more important, I think, is the application of them, the interpretation of them.
You've been just a great advocate for HazMat safety and just safety in general in the transportation industry.
Bob's regulatory knowledge and contacts in the hazmat industry was exceptional. It seems like he knew everyone and he knew all the regulations and the gray areas around those regulations.
Not only have you paved the way in so many areas in regulatory affairs, you have single-handedly helped Americase and the Americase companies grow to enterprise levels that are extraordinary.
I'm really hopeful that we can continue to build HSE into the global powerhouse that you envisioned. I need you to understand that everything we've done and everything we will do is built on the rock-solid foundation that you put down.
They say that a butterfly effect is very small actions can cause huge effects that are unknown. If that's a true theory, nobody has that effect within you, brother.
It should give you great satisfaction in retirement to be able to look back at such things, knowing that you have made a definite contribution to dangerous goods transport safety.
And now grandparenting looms. All I can say is, look out grandkids, here comes Grandpa Bob.
You know that being a grandfather will require a lot of dedication too.
Well, they're a lot more work than you'll have in UA, I can tell you.
Hey Dad, we just wanted to take a minute to celebrate you on your retirement.
Yeah, after all these years, hopefully you'll get some time to relax, especially with these knuckleheads. Love you, man.
Love you, man.
Congratulations, Dad.
Have business in Alaska. Congratulations, Bob.
Good luck and thank you for making this world safer.
Can't wait to hang out with you and see how you.
All right.